Hey, how's it going? Um, Welcome to Live Free, Die Old. Um, I'm going to talk a bit about a few topics. I'll talk about some libertarian, why be libertarian later. But the first topic that I want to talk about really is a few double standards that exist, uh, not just in the realm of ethics and in philosophy, but when it comes to the government and anarchy. Um, I've said before that the difference between an anarchist and a statist is that a statist views government how it should be in theory, and an anarchist sees how government should be in reality. And what I mean by that is uh, there are numerous governments which exist in the world, and people make all these claims about what government should do instead of saying, let us study these 100 governments and see what they do and see how much of and how what influences their behavior and how they act. Right? To say, for I'll give an example. I was being interviewed by a limited government guy, and during the interview, I said to him, there are over 200 governments which exist. How many of them protect individual rights? And he said zero. Well, this seems to me pretty good evidence that if 100% of governments exist which violate individual rights, to say we need government to protect individual rights when no government does that uh, seems a bit crazy to me. Right? If I were to say, for instance, let's say under anarchy, uh, the exact same result would happen every time. Mass starvation and death every time anarchy was implemented, and pretty much mass starvation. And I were to say that under anarchy, you were going to have there's going to be an abundance of food. Well, if every time anarchy's been tried, the opposite would occur, uh, what do I get off making such a claim? So one of the benefits, I guess, which sort of I think annoys a lot of statists, is that we don't really have a lot of evidence of anarchy. So it's very theoretical, but we have a lot of evidence of government existing and the complete failure of the state. And so I would argue that the idea that government is a protector is certainly not based on the evidence. And there is this double standard of whenever you're talking to people about anarchy of, well, prove how there's a problem that exists in the world currently, and we have a government, right? And we want to understand how a problem is going to be solved under uh, anarchy. And I guess there are a few replies to this. One, uh, can the problem be solved under statism? So if there's a problem that people are currently complaining about, and government doesn't make the problem go away or makes it more severe, then why does anarchy have to make the problem go away? If government's not able to do it, then why is it a requirement to have anarchy? If you're willing to upset the government, let's say, because let's say you say, well, under anarchy, who would protect us from violence? Well, does the government now protect people from violence, or does most of the arrests are due to victimless crimes? And 95% of the people in prison are there without a trial, and as a result of plea bargain. Do you get justice now? And if your answer is no, but I'm willing to accept the state anyway, then you should, I know it doesn't sound great, accept anarchy even under any condition that you are willing to accept the state under. So there is that double standard that exists. Um, I would say that the government is the definition of evil, because I define evil as saying something, acknowledging that something is wrong, and doing it anyway, right? And government must be evil by definition, because government is a monopoly, a coercive monopoly. And if government prohibits other people from engaging in its actions, and it says printing money is bad, but continues printing money, It is basically says to people, copy me and I will ruin your life. Copy my behavior and I will ruin your life. And that is, what does that say? If you're acting bad, you're, and you tell other people, don't act like me, well, I guess that's sort of good in the sense that you're telling other people not to do your bad thing. But the fact that you're continuing to do bad means that you're evil, that you acknowledge that what you're doing is bad. You don't want other people to do it, but you're fine doing it. Now, if what you're doing is not bad and you prevent other people from doing it, then you are evil by preventing people from doing good things, right? I don't think there's a legal requirement to help someone, unless, of course, you caused them to be in that bad situation. But preventing someone else from helping someone is evil, right? If someone's drowning in a river, I didn't push him in, I see someone drowning in a river, and I stop other people from saving him, I'm evil by preventing goodness to occur. So I think any way you slice it, government is an evil son of a bitch. I do sort of disagree with the notion that in order to have anarchy, people have to be better. You know, people have to be more compassionate. People have to be more responsible. No, I'm not a Marxist. I don't believe that there has to be this purification of mankind. That under anarchy, people are going to be nicer and smarter. I also believe that under anarchy, it's going to be a society without any violence. Government is the biggest mass murderer on earth, but they are not the only ones. So I think the claim that we need government, or in the absence of, in order to have government occur, we need people who are good and moral and ethical. I would argue no. Humanity is what it is. I don't really think you could change it. People who have tried to change it have only done so through coercive means. Only way to change people, if you persuade them, you're not really changing them. They're just changing themselves by taking your advice. If people are bad, government is the solution. In fact, it's worse, right? If you're going to say people are bad, people are power hungry, people want to steal. Well, if people want to steal, is giving a certain group of people the right to tax others really the solution to that problem? If people are violent, do you really want to give people a monopoly on weaponry? I would say the check. One of the arguments, conservatives give this arguments all the time, right? That an armed society is a polite society. That if everyone has a gun, that puts the violent people in check because they know if they try anything, they'll be shot back. Where taking away the guns from people just makes people victims. And I think you apply that logically and apply that to the state. Well, if let's have everyone be armed, and we'll have a politer society than just the government being armed where it really counts: nuclear bombs, missiles, and all that jazz. For me, I'm more a philosophical anarchist. I'm not really an activist. I don't really, if someone were to ask me, well, how do we get anarchy? I don't really know. I'm sort of an anarchist because government is immoral. That's sort of it. I don't know how realistic anarchy is. I don't know how to convert people to anarchy, although I'm not really interested in doing that. I'm interested more in just speaking the truth, and hopefully, people will be persuaded, and if not, they won't. But I don't really know how you can convert people to anarchy. I don't know the best way to get anarchy. I certainly think that the future does not look very optimistic, to say the least. And stuff like that. I guess the next topic I would want to talk about is why you should privatize the use of force. See, the difference between a minarchist and an anarchist is that the first thing the anarchist wants privatized is the thing that the minarchist does not want privatized. So I would say, fine, let government, privatize the post office. Let government privatize garbage. Who gives a shit? I mean, it's not so awful, but don't let it privatize stuff like police or courts or anything of importance. As Walter Block said, if we have to have government intervention, let's have government intervention in paper clips and rubber bands. That way, if they mess up, they won't create too much havoc. So I would argue that government intervention makes things worse. And I think there's a few reasons why you should have privatized defense. I mean, the obvious answer is competition, right? A cop, doesn't protect people. Does the government lose money? Do policemen get less pay? Are they out of business? No. There have been people who've called policemen for defense and no one came. In fact, there was a case where a woman was being raped. She called the police, no one came, and the Ninth Circuit District Court ruled that police have no obligation to protect you. So if police fail to protect you, there are no negative consequences. Where if there's competition and they fail to protect you, they're not going to be in business very much longer because they're unreliable and who would want to use them. But if they get a guaranteed payment through taxation and not competition, they don't really lose. But I think the main reason I think you should privatize police is that, the state's violence is put on a pedestal. See, under anarchy, you may have violence, but you'll have none of this pretense of, oh, this violence is for the common good. This violence is for the betterment of humanity, and any of that bullshit. So, now when people see cops arresting people, or people get thrown in jail, the assumption is, oh, that person must have done something wrong to be arrested. And even if, he broke the law. The law is good. Doesn't matter what the law is. He broke the law. And even if the law is unjust, well, then protest. You still have to follow it. Don't follow your conscience. Follow the law. So, most important thing is to follow the law. And people view the government as moral injustice, right? A war is not viewed as mass murder in many people's eyes. It's viewed as these people are heroes, these soldiers risking their life to defend our country. So the violence of the state is put on a pedestal. But that's the only reason it's put on a pedestal is because of this double standard of a certain group of people have the right to inflict their will on another group of people. But under anarchy, there would be none of this pretense. And not only would there be none of this pretense, because no one has more of a claim to inflict the laws than anyone else, it'd be very clear who the police are subject to. Because now the police are just subject to this abstract idea called the people, or the community, or the state, right? The police, if a politician hires a policeman to do violent, barbaric things, who do we blame? Do we blame the politician? No, he's just enforcing the laws. And even if he makes the laws, well, he's just doing what his voters want, and you have to talk to the voters. There's no one to say, this is John's fault for arresting Smith for a victimless crime. But under anarchy, if I hire a policeman, and the policeman does violent, coercive things, he can say, I'm representing Daniel. There's not this abstract entity called society, as if society is just one thing, but an actual, tangible, physical person with a name, with an identity that you can point to, with a contract in writing, that if you find the police abusive, you'll know exactly who is responsible and who hired him, and therefore there's going to be a lot of negative consequences for people to say, oh my God, this Daniel is a major dick committing violence on other people, hiring these goons and these policemen. There'd be none of this, I'm just serving the people crap. You know exactly who is responsible for what. Now, hold on a sec. I'm just going to see if there's any comments on YouTube and see if there's any questions. Hold on a sec. Let me see. See if there's any comments. Anyone say anything brilliant? Let's find out. No, not yet. I guess I'll comment meanwhile. So that's the reason that the police, I think, would be less violent. Sort of the same logic behind victimless crimes. You know, people say, well, under anarchy, how do we know there won't be Sharia law? Well, first of all, under government, how do we know there won't be Sharia law? So, again, doesn't solve that problem having a government. How do we know there won't be a lot of victimless crimes? Well, the question is, who pays to enforce these laws, right? Suppose I want to throw someone in jail for narcotics, and I'm able to find people willing to enforce such a law. Well, I have to pay them. With what income? Under government, everyone in the country pays for the law, whether you support it or whether you don't. It is highly, highly subsidized. And a person who says, I want this to be illegal, isn't sacrificing a huge part of his income because the cost is divided by 300 million people. And therefore, there's not much of a... Hey, how's it going, sir?
Hey, how are you?
Good. We'll talk in a sec. Let me just finish what I'm saying. So anyway, under a society where the costs are socialized to everyone, the people who support the law, the people who don't have to pay for it, and therefore it's not that expensive to enforce these violent edicts. But suppose that the only people who want to enforce a law were the ones who supported the law. So if someone's stealing my property, I have to pay, policemen to protect me. And if I were to enforce a law against drugs, I have to pay policemen. Well, now it's not divided by 300 million people. The only people who are going to pay for enforcing it are the ones who think this ought to be a crime. Well, now you'd see a lot of people saying, well, this is very expensive now. I'm not really sure how I feel about supporting such edicts. Now with that, let's have Matt on the show. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Any comments? I don't know if you heard anything I've said.
I came in just on the tail end of that, so I didn't really catch quite what you were getting at, but it sounded good. So.
All right. Well, that's all that's important. You were talking to Stefan Kinsella, right?
Yeah, I'm the program coordinator over at Liberty Me for all their webinars and events. So I set up and host most of about 25 to 30 webinars with libertarian thinkers every month.
Oh,
and
cool.
Tonight was Stefan Kinsella. We were talking about clarifying libertarian theory and where he sees a lot of equivocation and mistakes, common muddy thinking that leads to bad theory.
Like what?
Well, misuse of terms and misunderstanding of stuff. One of the last things we talked about was the difference between ethics and political philosophy. Libertarianism is not necessarily. It doesn't say that that everything that should be illegal, everything that is a violation of rights, is immoral. Just in the same way that we say that things that are immoral shouldn't necessarily be illegal, it also goes the reverse direction. So it's just common misconceptions, and we had a good, rousing Q&A. I think not everybody.
You didn't want to invite him, bring him along here?
I invited him. I think he's calling it a night. I'm not sure.
All right. Sure. All right, that sounds interesting. Yeah, there are a lot. I've discovered that all the time. Oh, you want drugs to be legal, so drugs are good. No. Incarcerating someone for taking drugs is worse. Look, I don't think I have a right to call someone fat, but if I do, they don't have a right to stab me.
Yeah, we had Walter Block on Saturday, and he gave the example of like somebody who burns a kitten. Somebody who burns a kitten has not violated any rights, any property rights, unless the kitten was somebody's kitten, in which case off with his head. But
Well, I
he's
don't know if that would be
still.
the punishment.
Oh yeah, I mean, personally, I would kind of vote more that direction because I love cats. But
All right.
you know, I think Walter said, kick him in the crotch. And yes, that's a rights violation. But you go into court and you say, okay, yeah, I violated his rights by kicking him in the crotch. What are you going to do about it? He burned a kitten. Come on.
Right. Sure.
You also see this in some of the, for example, left Rothbardians like Sheldon Richman have advocated for nonviolent sit-ins as a form of protest. Yes, it is a violation of property rights, but if you're willing to pay the what is necessary to restitute the owners for you just sitting in their space, then go ahead and do it. It is an effective form of protest. The fact that it's a violation of rights doesn't make it immoral.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree. I mean, I think there's also this misunderstanding of, there was a debate that I've was a moderator in, and I was interviewed by Jen Helfeld, and he asked, well, is it ever okay to use initiatory violence? And I said no. And he said, well, if you're starving and you need an apple to eat, will you do it? Right? And I said, well, I may do it, but the fact that I may do it is irrelevant to really anything. I may rape even and murder. Now, I wouldn't, but it may be possible that I would. But that doesn't mean the proposition it's never okay to rape and murder is wrong. It just means that I don't follow my own moral ethical code. And look, anyone can decide to do anything they want. I can decide to, punch you in the face, but that doesn't mean there's not repercussions. So yeah, if I'm starving, I'll probably steal an apple, and I take a penalty, right? Saying it's justified to steal an apple if you're starving means that there can be no penalty because it's justified for you to do that.
Absolutely. Libertarianism is not a theory of ethics. It doesn't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. All it does is say what should or should not be illegal, what should, bring about repercussions. My dad, when I was growing up, always said to me, choices have consequences, and I think that that's an important thing to just realize. It's not just one of the laws of physics. It's a serious thing. We've got to think about that. And one of the problems with government is that sometimes it removes the consequences from choices. You give those state actors the choices, but then you make the people pay the consequences, and so they're more likely to make much, much worse choices.
Yeah. So now there's some questions on the comments. Let me answer them. You can go first. How did you become a libertarian? You want to answer that first? Well, I'll answer it.
I guess I'll answer that. I was a lot of things before I was a libertarian. When I was about 13, I was a neocon. My parents were kind of neocon light. I got really into the wars that were starting at the time. I thought it was great for some reason. I guess I watched a lot of the news. So, yeah. And so going into high school, I had this. I saw how terrible Congress was and how inefficient the system was, and so I said, wouldn't it be much better if we just had one person to, tell everyone what to do, even if it was a bad decision? At least he'd be making a decision. And so I was a self-styled fascist for a little while, but I wanted to be the fascist dictator, of course. I mean,
well, of course. I don't know any fascist who doesn't want to be the fascist.
Absolutely. And then, going into college, I sort of drifted center-left because, I care about people. It's this weird thing. Some of us.
Oh yeah, only people on the left care about people. That is a very leftist attitude, right? To be a leftist doesn't mean you care about the poor. It means you believe only you care about the poor.
Absolutely. And I care about the poor only with your money. Um, but
Right.
yeah, I had the misfortune of deciding to major in political science.
Hmm.
And I didn't have, I had one conservative, libertarian leaning conservative professor the entire time, and the rest were liberals. And that would have been terrible, except that every one of them had one little pet peeve about the system that they really hated. And they could show why this little part of the system completely didn't work and why that little part completely failed. All the rest was good. We need to funnel more money into all the rest. But each one had one little area that they just thought was horrible. And then, so I was getting to the end of my undergraduate experience in 2010 as a senior, and I was becoming more disillusioned with Obama because he didn't do the good things he said he was going to do, like close Guantanamo and get us out quickly from our various engagements. I was always, after the fascist stage, I was fairly anti-war.
Hmm.
And I started realizing that after all those little pieces of the system had been destroyed for me, I didn't have much faith in any of the system. So around the same time, I decided to learn a little bit about economics because I always liked debating online, mostly on Facebook, and I thought it would be a great idea to learn a little bit more about economics because I didn't know a ton about it. Um, and I went on the Demonoid torrent tracker and I looked for economics audiobooks and I found Economics in One Lesson. Now it's a really good thing I didn't end up with some Krugman or something. But I listened to that. It was mind blowing. It was the clearest thinking I think I'd ever been exposed to. It literally just like I felt my life being changed right there. And at the time I was a part-time delivery driver, so I had all this time in the car with audiobooks, and so I got more audiobooks that were recommended. I think at the end of the audiobook, the Economics in One Lesson, they recommended Fee and the Mises Institute, and so I went online, I downloaded more audiobooks, and all of a sudden I was a libertarian. Um, and then shortly after that, I was an anarchist. So, and here I am.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'll answer the question also. I probably always consider myself to be a libertarian. I'm not always an anarchist, just because I didn't really know what it was, and I thought it was, what everyone said it was. Um, but I always sort of hated authority. Parents are full of shit. Teachers, the religious people, all full of shit. All double standards. The rules apply to me; they don't apply to you. And so I never liked that. I had a teacher who, if your cell phone rang in class, she would kick you out of class for the day, and if her cell phone rang, she would talk on it and answer it. You know, uh, Parents, get upset if I curse, they would curse. So just double standards all the time. And I guess I said, well, why would government be any different? They're probably full of shit too. And that was probably as deep as it went. Uh, and I also didn't didn't really like the people who liked government, and so maybe that's a bad reason to reject the philosophy. But I always found people, I guess you'd call them progressives or modern liberals, um, just these very condescending jerks, and just smug, and and very narcissistic, and very intolerant. And of course, they would say they're tolerant, but they would never debate people who disagree with you. It was funny. I was just talking to my grandmother, who's a conservative, and she got upset at me for not watching this America movie that just came out. And she said she saw the movie with people, and people who I guess are leftists, her daughter and husband, and they agreed to see the movie only on one condition, and that is that they wouldn't talk about it afterwards. And I sort of laughed when I heard that, although that's sort of typical. I want my ego stroked, and I don't want to talk about things that I'll disagree, and I'll name call, I'll insult. And so I didn't really like people on the left. I thought they were smug and condescending. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And I said, anyone they like, I don't like. Oh, they seem to like government. Well, I don't like government. And that's pretty much as deep as it went. And then I really liked Ron Paul. He was honest. He said things that were on his mind. I became like a real hardcore libertarian watching a Penn and Teller bullshit. And I'm like, ooh, I agree with everything these people are saying, and this makes a lot of sense. And I heard of Austrian economics of Ron Paul, and I read some books of my own, and I became more, interested. And then I just, I guess maybe it was Lysander Spooner or Stefan Molyneux or someone, where I just said, the state's just totally evil, and they suck. Probably as deep as it went. Not much deeper.
I remember the moment when I realized that I was an anarchist. I was sitting at a stoplight in Cary, North Carolina, with a bunch of pizzas in the back of the car, and I was listening to the audiobook of The Ethics of Liberty. I'm just sitting there, and I paused it, and I looked down, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm an anarchist. It hit me right there, and I'll never forget that moment. It was, I don't know that it was a happy moment. I said recently in a speech I gave, the red pill is not an antidepressant, but I think it's worked out for me so far. I've got a job now promoting liberty, and I like that. So
good. Yeah. Let me see. What are some other questions asked? Do you believe in the non-aggression principle as consistent? I mean, is there any instance where the initiation of force is what you consider moral? There is no consistent rationale behind the non-aggression principle. It should be generalized to a survival principle. Well, I think it depends. Oh, hey, Stefan, how's it going?
Hey, good. I tried to join with my iPhone, but it kept rejecting me. I hate Google Hangouts. God, it's so cranky. I hate this free thing we have that lets us talk to each other in video conference for free.
All the time.
I know. It's just...
All right. Anyway, so do you want to answer this question?
Yes.
Did you hear it?
No.
All right. I'll repeat it. The question is, do you believe the non-aggression principle is consistent? I mean, is there any instance where the initiation of force is what you would consider moral? There is no consistent rationale behind the non-aggression principle. It should be more generalized to a survival principle.
Matt, didn't we just talk about this?
I know.
We really, really did just talk about this, and then before you were in here, I was talking about it with Daniel a little bit. So we've mostly covered it. Let's hear your take.
Long and short. Look, I don't pretend to be a morality or philosophy or even ethics expert. My thinking is that there are a lot of things that are immoral, and usually aggression is one of them. Look, if you ever read Douglas Denial and Douglas Rasmussen's work, like Liberty and Nature, and I think their more recent one, they view rights as what they call meta-norms. Like they're normative principles, but they guide us as to what legal rules we should set up. I tend to think that's basically right. So just because we have a good reason to make it a principle that we shouldn't permit stealing doesn't mean that every individual in their personal action always has a good reason not to steal. Okay? So I think you can't say that it's always immoral to commit aggression. And of course, I think lifeboat situations, things like that, it's not really an exception to that. That's just a case where there's just no possibility of norms. If everyone's fighting over the only plank left from the shipwreck or something like that, you're not really trying to figure out the right way to act. You're just trying to survive. But if you were trying to figure out the right way to act, you would have to talk about property rights in the plank. So I guess that's kind of my take. Don't move, Matt. There is a cat on your head.
That's most of my life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw it, but Jan, there was a debate between Jen and Steph on that. It's worth watching. It's humorous. But Jen Helfeld had me on the show afterwards, and he said to me the same question. What is the context of the non-aggression principle? And he wanted to say the context was under extreme duress. What is the context? And I said to him, what is the context of don't rape? And he ended up actually saying, is there a context where it's okay to rape? There may be. So this lifeboat situation bullshit, I think, has you justify pretty horrendous stuff. Because at the end of the day, it's really about my own survival at the expense of someone else. Why is preserving your life more important than making sure someone else's life is ruined? Well, I understand that you want to live, but why is it more important for you to live at the expense of someone else being raped?
Well, look, I think the truth is most people bring up these lifeboat scenarios because they want to violate just the normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill non-aggression principle in everyday life, and they want to find a reason why they can do it. Okay, so they want to find some extreme case where you would admit you might violate it, and then they're free to rob and steal from you on an everyday institutionalized basis. So whenever I hear someone go a little bit too far about straining to find some hypothetical situation where you would violate rights, I hold on to my wallet because I think they're coming after it. They're basically trying to find a justification for the welfare state. So that's what they're really doing. And the fact that people would act in an uncivilized manner in an uncivilized situation is irrelevant to the reason that why we favor the non-aggression principle as civilized people trying to live together in a peaceful world.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, the two. I mean, there are a few common objections I hear against anarchy. I mean, one objection is, although I think you can make the same objection with government, is, well, anarchy assumes that people agree with your morals and that under anarchy you'll have a society that respects private property rights. But who says that'll be the case? How do you know that under anarchy you'll have the John Locke idea of private property and not the socialist idea of private property? And sure, government may take, let's say, 10% or 20% of your income, but isn't it better that a group of people take 20% of your income if it can mean we'll save the other 80%?
Well, I think that's why we have to be clear. We're not just anarchists. We're libertarian anarchists. In other words, we're libertarians first and foremost. We're simply anarchists because we're libertarians. A consistent libertarian is an anarchist. But we're not only against the state. I mean, because we're libertarians, we oppose aggression. That means we oppose private aggression and public aggression, which is the state. So we oppose private crime too. But to oppose crime in general by the state or by private individuals means we favor private property rights. So a libertarian society is one where there is enough widespread recognition among people of the nature and need for property rights so that they don't legitimize the state, so the state can exist. The state is institutional. It can only exist if there's widespread agreement on its necessity. So if we have a libertarian society where there's enough widespread belief in the illegitimacy of the state just couldn't exist. So there wouldn't be a state. But for it to be libertarian, there would also have to be widespread protection of and respect for private property rights in a private society as well, which means that there would have to be a low amount of private crime and public crime. I think you can imagine a society where there's no state, but there's a lot of crime, or there's some crime. In fact, I think it's almost impossible to imagine a society in which there's no crime. Because if you imagine a crime-free society, then the benefit to just one person defecting and becoming a criminal is so high, someone's going to do it, right? Because everyone's going to be leaving their doors unlocked, and they're going to be a bunch of sheeple. There's a lot of appeal to one person that's sadistic or antisocial to just become a criminal. So I think there's always going to be some criminals, but I think in a private society, in a private law society, we can expect the state to be widely scorned as illegitimate and not to exist. So you won't have institutionalized crime, but you would have sporadic crime by outlaws and by malfeasors and malcontents. But we can control it because the civilized people will be richer, smarter, and more powerful on a systematic basis. That's kind of how I view it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. My sort of only response to that is, look, there's no guarantee. Like, some people say, well, how do we know under anarchy there won't be, Sharia law or communism? Well, how do we know under government there won't? So I think any objection you can make, it's sort of like the government needs to correct market failure. Oh, there's market failure, so we need government. Okay, maybe there is market failure, but that doesn't mean government can fix it.
Well, was that an argument from objectivists you're talking about?
I don't think it's specifically from them, although I am going to bring up one argument from them in a moment, but I don't think that's specifically to them.
Because they would have trouble making that kind of argument because they believe even more that you just can't have a free society unless basically everyone is objectivist.
Right. No. There's not going to be everyone who agrees with the same moral code ever. So.
Yeah, that seems like a really depressing belief to have. If you think that everyone has to be libertarian to have a libertarian society, then that sucks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we don't have. In fact, I don't think we can do it. I mean, look, what we engage in a lot is this kind of program, this activist movement over the last 30, 40 years, where we've had this assumption that we need to get our ideas out there, and we do. But the assumption is that is our method of achieving a free society. So you keep having these people say, as soon as we convince enough people, but we're not really making ground. We're making headway for different reasons, but it's not like we get 1% every year and we're finally going to get 99%. We're always losing because there's new people being born, right? And there's incentive effects. I don't think the way to a free society is to have a propaganda campaign or even an education campaign that persuades enough people. It's useful and it's good to have it there, and it's good to have a remnant like we are. But the only way we're going to have a free society is if freedom and respect for rights is somehow natural to people and intuitive and the natural ethos of society. And you can't rely on everyone having read 5 books and attended a college course or have a PhD in philosophy. If you can't have a farmer and the regular guy down the road respect sort of intuitively and naturally, it's not going to ever work. So the question is, can it? And I think it can, because I think most people are decent and they want to be nice to each other. So the question is, can they afford to be? And I think we can be when technology and the markets keep increasing our wealth and our abilities. And do they have enough sort of natural understanding of the benefits of freedom and free markets? And I don't think they're going to take a course in college for that. In fact, that probably would hurt. But but I think living in the free market is a teaching event, right? And I keep using this example over and over that people nowadays seem to have, by and large, a healthier respect for the necessity of capitalism and a healthy skepticism of central planning ever since the fall of communism in 1991. They didn't study anything, they've just seen it with their own eyes, right? That was a big teaching moment. And I think that over time, I do think the market is going to keep progressing, and people are over time just going to get used to this is the only way you can live, and they'll just naturally absorb the lessons we learn intellectually. They're going to absorb them by cultural osmosis and by history over time. And gradually the state will wither away. That's my only hope, or that's my hope. I think that's the only way it can happen.
Yeah, someone asked me recently why I engage in activism if I don't think that we're going to make everyone into libertarians. I said, well, I want to make more libertarians because I like hanging out with libertarians. Mm-hmm. I think you guys are nice guys. I think we could share some beers and that'd be a great time. But I also want to create the conditions in which makers can appear. And these makers are going to create technologies like, or I hope they will create technologies like Bitcoin and 3D printing that make it easier to go around the state than to comply with the state. And when it's easier to go around...
You don't need to be a libertarian to do that. You can be a 3D maker person, right? I mean, but still.
Yeah, when it's easier to go around the state than to comply with the state, people will go around the state, and it doesn't matter what they believe. Now, the makers don't have to be libertarians, but I think it helps. I think a lot of the people who are creating these innovative technologies are libertarians. I think they have this kind of vision for society. I think getting into particularly the cryptography realm really kind of destroys what you believe is the need for a centralized system of governance, because you see the way that these structures can form in a decentralized manner.
Well, I think the question also is a little bit odd. Why are you an activist? And really, I've heard that question asked about me, about why you're so interested in or passionate about political theory and libertarian ideas. It's like, well, first of all, I mean, if someone wrote a history of World War II, they spent 25 years of their life devoting their career towards learning history and being an academic and writing this book. Would you ask them, why would you waste your time writing a book about history? It's just going to be a book, and you're going to die someday. I mean, well, because he's interested in history, and he wants to contribute to human learning, and he is interested in the truth, and he's interested in history. Well, some people are interested in normative questions and politics. And in fact, most people that ask you that question are also interested in it. They're just liberals or socialists. So they have opinions. They just don't like your opinions. And when you get passionate about it, and you have better arguments because you've thought about it more than them and because you're more right, they don't like it. So they start bashing you for having the audacity to be interested in something when you're not going to win. So they're really just taunting you, saying that, you're not going to win. We're still winning in the meantime, so shut up. They're really telling you to shut up, I think.
It's sort of like the people who say, well, men shouldn't have an opinion about abortion. What they really mean is men can have an opinion about abortion. It just has to be pro-abortion. Right? That's really what they mean.
I guess I don't know why they why can't I guess why don't they argue nuns and women with that are past menopause, and why can't they not have an opinion about abortion too, or
right,
or female prisoners in jail that don't have access to being inseminated? I mean, they shouldn't have an opinion about abortion. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's anti-intellectual and it's dishonest.
I think
just
anyone
trying to shut people up.
Yeah, it's nonsense. There's something I wanted to say. I think I forgot it. Oh yeah. So the number one thing that I hear all the time that people say the problem with libertarians is that they don't understand degrees. That the initiation of the use of force is a spectrum. That according to a libertarian theory, if let's say the only way to save someone's life is by pinching you, I can't do it, and therefore someone should die. So a worse tragedy is going to happen just because I use a little force. And yeah, government might violate some of your rights, but they're doing it to protect more of your rights. And that is the number one criticism that I hear all the time. That they think all force is bad and they don't understand degrees.
Did we have this question already, or am I confusing the last thing? By the way, are you doing this from your jail cell? Because it looks like you have a nice cot up there.
Well, sort of, but I don't get any sex that comes with that. So.
It looks like a prison cot, man, from here.
It's a jail cell without sex. How's it going, James?
It's good.
So I saw the video of you and Kinsella in the woods. Great video.
Yeah. Are you guys talking about violence?
No, we're talking about me getting eaten by bears in the Canadian wilderness, and you were my consolation. You kept me from despairing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it just me? Because I thought when you were in the woods, you asked someone, do you think taxation is theft? And they said yes. do you support it? And they said, as long as it's less than, I think they said 14%, right?
Why isn't my
It
camera
was
working?
crazy.
Oh,
James
wait.
made me
Huh?
do that.
My camera's not working for some reason.
I was a little tipsy, to be honest, and James
Yeah,
did that.
I said to Kinsella, I said that ask these people what they, because they were British, ask them what they think about taxation.
Yeah, they were nice.
And
They answered it, you know.
Yeah, they said it's okay as long as it's less than 14%. But taxes are
No,
higher than 14%.
20%, I think they said, didn't they? I don't know. I can't remember.
They
Okay,
were
taxes
they were not
are
very
higher than
consistent, put it that way.
Hold on. Let me come back in because my camera's not working.
I hope you're wearing a shirt, James. Sometimes he doesn't always wear a shirt.
I
So
know.
how long?
What's up with that?
I don't know.
I'll let Matt field this one. Go
How-
ahead, Matt. You take it.
What was the question again? Was this the one about degrees of force?
Agree.
Oh, I mean, it just gets back to the question we were talking about earlier. I mean, libertarianism is not an ethical theory. It's a theory of what should and should not be illegal in a free society. And the fact that something's illegal doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I mean, if you need to pinch someone to save a life, yeah, go ahead and pinch someone. You'll be a hero, and maybe the person you pinched will sue you, and you'll have to pay damages of whatever that pinch cost. I don't know. So?
Plus, it's unrealistic. I mean, it's who's ever had to pinch someone to save the world? I mean, these guys are coming up with crazy hypos because they want to justify taxation. So it's a distraction. I mean, why don't they come up with a positive argument?
True. I think I'm going to use it when I meet a very attractive woman. Listen, I'm going to rape you, but I have to rape you because when I rape you, you're going to get pregnant with a guy who is going to discover the cure for cancer. And if I don't rape you, you're not going to be able to give birth. And this guy, and you won't have a kid who will discover the cure for cancer, and all these people won't be able to be treated. So really, for the common good, bend over.
Yeah, that probably won't work as a pickup line, probably.
I feel like you should not give that example to Walter Block because he might use it.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
I'd be flattered if he used it. I think it would be great.
Yeah, Walter would say that if you simply rape, if you're a concentration camp guard and you rape fewer inmates than a Nazi would, then you're doing a net good on the whole or something, I guess.
Then you can be a libertarian concentration camp guard. Yeah, he was talking about that on Saturday.
Walter likes to come up. He likes to push the envelope with his hypotheticals. I'll give it to him.
He does. Some of them don't make a lot of sense. Some of them, I think, don't. They make sense, but you have to know your audience. Like when he says to people who support businesses not being allowed to discriminate, and he gives that example of, you're promoting compulsory bisexuality. That just goes over their heads, and they just think he's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's just a matter of your audience and whether it's a good example. But he's got one argument he's used many times, which I disagree with. And we're friends, and I like most of his stuff. But he keeps making this argument about Atlas Shrugged and the Ragnar example. You know how Ragnar Danishjoel, the pirate guy, there's all these government ships full of stolen loot somehow, and he basically raids them and takes the stuff, right? And so Walter says that if you have an action that's legitimate, then each half of the action must be legitimate. So the first half is the taking of the stuff, and the second half is returning it to its owners or whatever. I forgot what happens. He said, so even if you didn't return it to the owners, the first half of just taking it from the government is legitimate. And I forgot how he uses that. He uses that to justify something like that. But the problem with that argument
taking money from the government.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But the problem with that argument is that you can't say because an action is justified, each half of it is justified, because the first half might be justified only because of the second half, which I think is the case here. So in other words, let's say the government takes something from me and they have it on a ship somewhere. Now, I'm still the owner of it morally, and I want it returned to me ideally. And you could say that the owner of stolen property would prefer that another innocent person like Ragnar have it than the government, even if the owner can't get it back. You could make that assumption, right? Or you might say that Ragnar is presumed to have the right to take the stuff because he intends to try to return it, and most people would say, I give you my consent to try to liberate my stuff if you're going to make a good faith effort to return it to me, something like that, right? It's conditional. It's sort of like when you intervene and you see two people having a fight, and you have to physically manhandle them both to break up the fight, to protect the weaker one, the victim, the presumptive victim. You're assuming you have his presumptive permission to manhandle even the victim to help save him, right? Or like if someone's passed out in a ditch, and you take them to the hospital and you pick them up and you do a tracheotomy or whatever to try to save their life, you're going by presumed or implied consent because it's reasonable under the circumstances, right? But if you were just going to liberate someone's property from the government and go take it and live high on the hog on that stuff yourself, I don't know if the owner would consent to that. Why would they rather a private thief have it than the government? I mean, they're both thieves.
I think it comes out of the common law idea of graded rights to property. So the true owner has the ultimate right to it, but anyone has a better right to the item than the thief.
Yeah, but if Ragnar was a thief, if he just wanted to take it from the government and go spend it on himself and not return it to the owner, even if he could, then he's no better than the person he took it from. So they're just two thieves.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Let's say he doesn't know who the owner is, right? Like, for example...
That's a different issue. That's a different issue. I agree.
But I think that's what Walter Block is saying. So I think Walter Block is trying to justify, let's say, his position at a university where he gets paid...
No, I don't know if I disagree with his ultimate conclusion. I'm just saying his argument that if you take an action and the ultimate end is justified, then all the component parts of it have to be justified. I think that's not correct, because you can think of cases where it's not correct. Because the justice of the first part is dependent upon, like, your intention or whatever. Now, I think, Matt, you're probably going to say that Ragnar's, even if he's a thief, he's better than the government because he's a much lesser thief. Well, that might be true, but I don't think the law would make that kind of distinction.
I don't think that's... No, that's not really what I was going for. I don't think that he's necessarily a thief because he's not taking from the rightful owner. Is someone who is taking to give back rightfully owned property a thief until he gives the property back?
No, because like I said, I think if he intends to return it, then he has the implied consent of the owner to do that. You know, if you lose your wallet in the park one day, you go home and you realize you've lost your wallet, you are hoping some benevolent stranger picks it up and returns it to you, which means that you're totally okay with them picking it up if they're wanting to return it to you. But if it's some shady character who saw you drop it and they just want to abscond with it, you're not okay with them picking it up. So the act of picking it up depends upon their intent of what they want to do with it. And one you would consent to and give your blessing to, and the other you would not, I think, right?
I don't know that it does depend on the consent. I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't think that it necessarily does depend on the consent implied or express of the true owner of the property. I think that the person who currently is in possession of it, the thief, has absolutely no right whatsoever to it. So there's no reason I shouldn't take it.
Why do you call him a thief? What makes him a thief? Oh, you mean if in the Ragnar case? Well, yeah, I'm just talking about the general case of when you come across when you come across lost property that has an owner, right? Then the question is, do you have permission to use this person's property, which you are fully aware that it has an owner, right? So if I pick up a wallet that someone has lost, intending to return it, you can be sure that the owner is glad I did that. He doesn't want me to just walk by and leave it sitting there for someone else to take it and steal it. He actually would consent to my taking it for that purpose, I think.
But I don't know if that's what... I can't speak for Walter Block, but I think what he's saying is, like, you don't know who the owner is. Like Social Security. You know that the government stole money from taxpayers, but you don't know who the taxpayers are. And you don't know how much they stole from each person. So in that case, are you able to, let's say, accept Social Security, even though you know that money was stolen?
Well, my view is the government causes net waste, right? It causes net costs on society. So there's no way the government could ever make restitution to everyone that it victimizes. It's impossible. In a few cases, it could overly restitute a few people. So, for example, military industrial contractors or people that work for the government, even they are harmed by the government. But maybe if they get millions of dollars from the state, then, on balance, they're getting more than they suffered. Or they're causing the state to do it, or they're endorsing it, so that they're not entitled to any restitution. But as a general matter, I think it's very difficult for any true victim of the state to ever get too much money from the state, because it will never make up for the amount of liberty they've been deprived of by the government's actions. Even if the government pays you $1 million a year in some weird scam, as long as you're a true victim of the state, you're not supporting the state, you didn't ask for it to do this, even then that's not full restitution in my view.
Right. Like, I remember I was in a class, and someone said, I think to the professor who was an anarchist, well, isn't it hypocritical working in a government school, getting paid by the state when you say, it's an immoral institution? And I think this question was addressed at me also, because the teacher asked how many people were anarchists, and I think I was like the only one, besides for the professor, who raised his hand. And I basically said, look, I don't think it's hypocritical to get paid by government, as long as one, the profession itself doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, and I don't actually help the state.
That's hard to do in a lot of cases, but the other question is, what's the relevance of this hypocrisy charge? In other words, I'm making an argument about the legitimacy of a certain state institution or law, and someone says, but isn't it hypocritical for this? It's like, that's not a relevant question. So what if it is hypocritical?
I agree.
So what if I'm a hypocrite? What if I'm a hypocrite because I'm a patent lawyer? Does that mean patent law is justified?
I agree it's not an argument. I agree it's not an argument. It's an argument people give when they have nothing else.
It's not an argument. It could be an interesting question, but only if it's meant sincerely, which it never is.
Right.
Is that Cox there with the V mask on?
It is. Hello, James.
So what's better, Guy Fawkes or patent attorneys?
I think the Guy Fawkes mask is better than you being shirtless like you were in my last interview.
What would you rather support, Guy Fawkes or patent attorneys?
Now, is that the real Guy Fawkes, or?
Yeah, the real Guy Fawkes.
You're freaking me out.
That's tough.
Come on, man.
Take the mask off, James. I think you're high.
I'm not high.
Huh?
Guy Fawkes is a British guy, man. As my father said, he was the best person that ever entered the Houses of Parliament.
I thought I read something the other day. Wasn't he like another socialist or something like that? Or
Guy Fawkes? No.
Yeah.
He wanted to get rid of government because of the oppression. So he tried to go in there and blow them all up. Yeah, I did read about it. Guy Fawkes.
No, Guy Fawkes wanted to impose a different king. He didn't want to get rid of king.
Yeah, Guy Fawkes.
He was sick and tired of the.
I don't understand why people wear his mask.
Huh? He was sick and tired of. Well, I'm just wearing it for a joke because I just think
it's like the people who have the Shea shirt.
Who? Oh yeah, they're idiots.
You're probably violating some French law right now.
French law?
Yeah.
We're all guilty of violating stupid laws all the time.
Good evening, London.
We're all guilty of violating laws all the time.
This fucking shit's hot.
But yeah, Fawkes wanted to restore a Catholic to the throne. He didn't like the Protestants.
Right. Yeah, I think I read that the other day. It was on Facebook or somewhere. I hadn't known that.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, so here's a question that I did really want to address, because someone said this to me. Someone says, look, wishes don't create the reality. I'm not a fan of government, but it's not going to go away just because I want it to go away. Life is short. Why spend my time and my energy worrying about something that I can't control? I have my own life. There's enough problems in the world. I'm not a fan of government, but nothing I can do is to end it. Why just have any type of view? Let me just live my own life and not worry about this shit. What are your responses to that?
I think that if you don't get enough utility out of caring about truth and beauty and justice to do things that promote truth and beauty and justice, then don't promote truth and beauty and justice. Just live your life. Try not to do anything that violates the rights of others. I personally do derive enough utility out of talking about libertarian legal theory that I've now spent about 2 hours of my evening doing that. What can I say? That's what interests me. I like it. I want to bring about liberty. I want everyone to be free, not just me. So I spend time doing that. If you don't want everyone to be free, don't.
I don't want everyone to be free.
Who do you want to be still enslaved?
People who advocate enslavement. I want them to know what it feels like.
Well, that's not freedom, is it?
Okay, maybe I'm a vengeful son of a bitch. I don't know.
I mean, if true, real freedom is basically you get left alone to live your life freely, and if people want to be enslaved and, have people tell them how to run their lives and tell them what to do and stuff like that, then that's it. You just say, hey, I'm not part of this. This is not me, and you should be left alone.
I think that's freedom, though. If they're choosing it voluntarily, they're choosing to have someone run their lives, hey, that's freedom. I want everybody to have that freedom, even the assholes who don't want me to be free. But I'm a dirty altruist.
James, why don't you explain to us why you don't believe in rights, even though you say you're a libertarian?
Why rights don't exist?
I didn't say that.
Is it? Huh?
I don't know. You tell me what your position is.
Why rights don't exist?
What is that your position?
Do rights exist?
What does it mean to exist, and what's the relevance of that way of putting it, that question?
Man, you're looking awfully devilish tonight.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that you got this stupid draw thing.
You've been drinking too much, man.
What's the?
You never look
who did that?
I told you this guy was fucking evil. Look at him. He's got horns coming out of his head.
He's Jewish.
He's what?
I said he's Jewish.
Oh God.
Well, so think of it this way. You would admit, I'm pretty sure, that 2 + 2 = 4 is a true statement, correct?
That's a concept. That's a concept.
Okay, so you can't even answer that simple.
It's just a concept.
You don't think it's.
Listen, it's all.
You don't think it's true that 2 + 2 is 4.
It's all man-made shit, right? That's all it is.
So this is where I end up with this guy every time.
It's just stuff that's all been made up, right? You're still stuck in constitutional head mode here, I think.
Is 2 + 2 = 4?
The founding fathers.
Does 2 + 2 = 4?
To some people, maybe. To some people, not.
Oh God. Okay, I can't get even with you.
It just depends, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't, James.
Of course, it depends.
No,
it's what
we're
people.
We're not talking about Bob Dole's.
Do you have horns growing out of your head right now? Do you look like the devil?
Those are two different questions.
I'm just asking you.
James, be serious instead of being a cokehead.
He can't. He can never.
You can't be serious, man. You can't. You guys need to relax.
Hey, being serious is just a concept, man.
Of course it is, man.
Like, that's just your opinion, man.
That's just my opinion, man.
It's like Bob Dole's underwear. It depends.
But it's just a concept. It's just an abstract idea.
I don't know where you get your epistemology from, but it's probably not your strongest.
That's just
suit.
another. That's just another
How did I get
abstract
this stupid
idea.
draw thing off the screen? Oh my God, who did that? Is that Rothschild doing that?
Yep.
Me? I don't do that
No,
shit.
John, you need to stop that shit, man.
All right.
I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I don't know how to turn this thing off. How do you turn this crap off?
I have no idea.
Oh, there we go. I found a little thing on the side. I got mine off now.
All right.
Fun's over.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. What was someone saying before we got distracted?
Google effects. I don't know, man. I'm in your hands. I don't know what you guys are. I mean, what was the theme or the purpose of tonight's talk?
To talk about brilliant, profound truth.
That's a big task.
Well, I don't know. I think I think I tapped myself out under Matt's handy direction tonight. Matt was a good host.
Really? Why? What did you guys talk about?
Well, it was a Liberty.me thing, and it was on clarifying libertarian confusion, things like that.
Right.
And the thing is, it's really hard to look at the chat window when you're doing that, and I gave up. I don't do it anymore. You can't follow it. You'll be distracted. So Matt selects the at the end. He just puts them into the little window there. That's the good way to do it. You kind of need a moderator like that, I think, to make it work well.
Right.
And we didn't have any technical glitches tonight. That was pretty good.
Yeah, no technical glitches tonight, although we are, in the next couple of weeks, moving to a new system that should be better and have fewer technical glitches. But the problem with moving to a new system is that there will always be technical glitches.
There's a learning curve and everything, yeah.
So one of the comments was 2 + 2 = 4 in base 10, not necessarily in a different set of numbers.
I mean, what can you say to that? I mean, this is where I think, I mean, I'm not a Randian anymore, but I do think a lot of Rand's approach to epistemology and her very serious, careful attention to words and concepts and knowledge makes sense. And you can tell a lot of libertarians have never read anything about this kind of stuff. So when they start
let me ask you a question though. Is there more than one shade of green?
But you see, this is an example where...
No, is there? Is there more than one? No. Be truthful. Is there one shade of green?
I'm actually hesitant. See, I'm hesitant to answer that question because the way you word it, I'm sensing an equivocation setting in. Because you say, is there, like it's an existent type question.
Are there different shades of green? Or is there just one green, or are there different shades of green?
I don't know if I would even say that there is a green. Okay, I wouldn't put it that way.
Right. Well, there you go. There you go. Then about rights. Back to the thing about rights.
That doesn't follow at all. Green is a concept that we have rationally.
It's just an agreement between people, right? Isn't it?
No, you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. Someone could say, "I don't agree to respect your."
You don't have to agree. Therefore, rights don't exist. Because somebody says,
well, who says they exist?
You about your rights.
Who says they exist?
Well, you claim they do.
Do I?
Yeah. It's Bozo the Clown.
I'm trying to have a serious...
Stop clowning around.
I'm trying to have a serious...
Stop clowning around, man.
No, I mean, I don't think that
this is the best show ever.
Follows at all. I think that the fact that we can't perceive an objective set of rights, or maybe we can if Hoppe is correct, or some interpretations of Hoppe. But that doesn't imply that there aren't objective rights. The fact that we may not know anything about
it's all abstract. All I'm trying to say is abstract. It's a concept.
It's abstract like it's an insult. Abstract doesn't.
It's intersubjectively.
It's just an idea. It's just an idea. It's just, that's all it is. Do I like violence? Do I like violence? Do I like people stealing? Do I like government? These people that call themselves government doing shit to people, what they're doing, right? Do I like all this? No, hell no. Do I like innocent people getting murdered? No, I don't. Right?
Do you think it's wrong to murder someone?
Well,
or is murdering just an abstract concept?
Are you talking about murdering or killing somebody?
I use the word
killing someone outside of
in self-defense, huh?
I said murder.
outside of defense.
Is it wrong to murder someone? It's a very simple question.
Absolutely, it's wrong. To actually take another human being's life, yes.
So your view of
Unless you're
wrongness
under
is not
extreme
just
duress.
But that's just my opinion.
well, which one?
James,
Which one
not
is
just
it?
your opinion.
But that's
It's
just my
everyone's
opinion.
Well, what do you
But
mean it's
anyone-
just your
it's not.
opinion?
No, it's
What else
not.
could it be? Why do
You're not inside a crazy fucking person's head.
James, how many people agree that it's okay for you to murder them? How many people? Well,
Why don't you ask this question to somebody that has donned a costume that has joined the U.S. military and is now killing innocent women and children? Ask them if it's okay to murder.
What do you
Well,
have
he-
against people
he thinks
saying
he's
that
being
they're right?
heroic and he needs to pay for college.
I don't have anything against rights. I'm just saying that rights don't exist. They don't.
We're totally missing the point here, because the fact that we can't agree on what rights are doesn't mean that they don't objectively exist.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but
a non-sequitur.
we don't have a problem. We can't have a conversation because James is just rattling off these things and being anti-intellectual about it. He always does it. That's the problem. It's not that we can't agree on rights.
Right,
If
look,
you have a serious conversation about it, you could actually.
Look.
I think we could reach some
And-
rough
and-
agreement on
And,
this basic.
and
idea.
here we go again. Here we go
no,
again.
it's like people. It's like these hypocrites who say that they're against that we have an overpopulation problem, right? Saying that we have an overpopulation problem is the ultimate hypocrisy. Just kill yourself and stop being a part of the problem, if you truly believe that.
Well, you do have the VHEMT movement, the what is it, the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement.
How is it voluntary?
Well, they don't think they should force people to do it, but they think people should voluntarily agree not to reproduce and let us die out by attrition or something like that. 'Cause
Okay.
you don't want to be the last human living, I guess. You know,
Why
wouldn't be
not?
pleasant.
What do you mean? I think it would be pleasant.
Cox might. He basically lives like that in the woods already with chickens or something. So
You really need to stop insulting people.
I'm joking. It's not.
Because you're just so fucking
James,
childish, man.
James, you
Grow
only
up.
insult the ones you love. You know what that means?
Yeah,
it means
go fuck
Costello
yourself.
loves Jan Helfeld.
Look, you told me you live in the woods with a bunch of dogs and chickens or something. I don't know.
I
I'm
do
just
live
trying
in
to
the
picture.
woods. I do live in the woods.
Right.
James
So
Cox.
you're like the last man on earth already.
So what? Who gives a fuck? Am I harming anybody?
No, what do you know? He has a girlfriend up there with him.
Am I harming anybody?
Did
why-
anyone say
I'm not
you
harming-
were?
Harm is just a concept, so I don't know.
It is.
Harm
It
just
is.
a
It is. It is.
Harm is a social
You're right.
concept.
You're
basically
absolutely
done.
100%. You're 100%.
It's just what people agree.
correct.
It's what people agree to. It's what they agree is harm. So it depends,
Well,
I guess,
first of
on
all-
what they agree.
So I mean, right here in this room, it's 3-1. So if we all agree,
What's this
that
fucking
it's
3-1?
not
Do
hard.
you believe it? Do you believe in fucking democracy or something?
You
Huh?
were the
You
one.
call yourself
you were the
a
one
fucking
talking
anarchist?
about.
3 to
You were
fucking
the-
1. All say aye. That's it. Execute James.
Democracy doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
Jesus fucking
I
Christ.
wonder you're
Demo-
hiding in the woods.
Let's all have a
democracy is-
vote. Let's all fucking vote. Where we gonna go? Voting now?
A vote's
Jesus
just a
fucking
concept.
Christ.
A vote is just a concept.
I do
vote
think there
is
are
just a
no
fucking
different
concept.
shades of green, but I do think there are different shades of purple.
Democracy
There's all
is a
kinds of
social
different-
construct, therefore it doesn't exist. We can't agree on
Absolutely.
what democracy is.
Absolutely.
So what's your
No,
objection to
It's
democracy?
what we have now.
Who
the tyranny of
does?
majority.
Who does?
Democracy is gang rape.
Absolutely.
But rape is just a concept.
It's not rape, it's implied consent.
I think the cat should get a vote.
Anyway, going back to the rights, Molyneux has a video. It's on one of my YouTube channels. I'll
Is
send
this
it
You
to you.
Have No Rights?
Huh?
Is this You Have No Rights? Is that the video
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah. Rights don't exist.
No, I think he's probably. I haven't seen it, but I imagine he's saying
Sent
that
it to you.
under the current system, he's probably arguing that
No,
your
it's
rights
not.
are being violated by the state.
Saying exactly the same thing as I am. It's just a concept.
Molyneux has a whole theory of
abstract.
right. You ever heard of his UPB?
It's what people agree upon. If you like something, then you agree together, and that's it. Doesn't mean to say it's a fucking right. It's a concept, and you take it and you live by that concept, or you don't.
When did you come up with this way of looking at things? Because you seem awfully sure of it, but it's not really settled that well in your mind, apparently. I mean, why are you so confident about this? Because you obviously haven't given it.
If there was such a thing as rights, then why are people being violated? If this
one thing has to do with another.
Great.
Whoa,
If that is great.
This is where we're getting it.
The founding fathers wrote the Bill of Rights.
People violate other people's rights doesn't mean they don't exist.
That's the ultimate result of this line of thinking. He ignores the difference between prescription and description.
It's just a fucking idea.
You saying it's just an idea, like that's a.
They're just fucking ideas. They're just concepts. You think they're real? You're fucking delusional. They're not. It's just something that some fucker or some people have made up. That's all it is. Hey, I've got an idea. I've got an idea. Let's not steal from people. Hey, that's a great idea. I'll go along with that. Now, I'm not saying it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I don't.
Yeah, but okay is a normative term that means it's not good. But goodness is just a concept, according to you.
It's all just fucking thought, isn't it? What people think.
You're just obviously very confused on this, so I don't know why you insist on
confused at all.
Repeating this nonsense
I'm not
over
confused.
and over.
By definition, all the stuff people think is just thought. And
of course it is.
That's true.
I don't know what you're.
That doesn't mean that it's not meaningful.
I don't even know what you're.
No, I'm not saying it's not meaningful. Don't put words in my mouth.
James, you should be a college professor because no one knows what the hell you're talking about.
I know what he's talking about. Most people that talk like
See? He knows what I'm talking about, but here he is trying to fucking berate me and make me look stupid, but he understands it.
No,
so
I
Stupid, James. Stupid is just a concept. It doesn't exist.
No, I just think you're wrong. I think that you're basically you're mired in.
Can you show me a right? Can you show me a right?
You see that's the kind of.
Can you show me one?
That's the kind of any intellectual.
Can you show me a right?
Can you show me love?
Is it concrete?
Concepts are valid not because
is it concrete
reference.
Is it concrete?
So you're a materialist, James.
There's nothing.
Is it concrete?
I don't know what to say. I mean, this is basically you're.
I know it's beyond your comprehension, I guess.
No, you're no,
right?
you
beyond
are what
your comprehension to comprehend.
You're basically a skeptic.
No,
but like all
skeptics, not a skeptic at all.
Have it both ways.
Absolutely, I'm not.
Well, what is the point of what you're trying to say? What is the point?
I asked Kinsella. He brought it up, not me. He wants to have the argument, not me.
It's hard to have an argument when you just keep repeating.
It's hard to have an argument when James is always right.
When James is always incoherent.
I don't know. I haven't actually heard an argument. I've heard a series of statements. Some of them have been coherent. Some of them not quite so much. But they haven't actually come to some conclusion about really anything.
All right, do you believe in rights then, Kinsella? Do you believe in rights?
I don't put it that way because that is subject to equivocation, especially by skeptics.
So tell me how you put it then.
When people say they believe in rights,
friend.
When people say they believe in rights, it's a kind of a condensed way of stating their normative values and preferences. Okay. It's a way of stating. Hold on. It's a way of stating what they believe is justified or not.
All right.
And you share those same justifications with us. You just don't like to use the word rights because the government can
do with that. I just got nothing to do with that.
You have the activist mentality, and because
it has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
You think they're useless. The only thing that you think counts. This is my view.
You don't even believe. You don't even believe that these rights exist. You don't even accept them, and you don't respect them. You don't respect them, and I'll tell you why. You've got a child, right? And if you think that you don't have a right to go and enter somebody's house, right? What if that doctor had the only medication that your kid need? Oh my God! Oh my God! The world's coming in! The world's coming in!
I've had the Hellfell 3 times tonight. I can't do the Hellfell argument again.
You'd break into that guy's house and get that medicine to keep your kid alive.
That's a huge non sequitur.
Yes, you would.
I'm out.
Yes, you would.
You can talk to Gilliland and Daniel about that. I'm going to let them feel this one. I'm going to be right back. Go ahead. I give up on this one. I'm not quitting. I'll be right back. But go ahead.
We're not talking about ethical theory here. I mean, the fact that something is a rights violation doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it.
What is a right?
The opposite of a non-right.
What is a non-right? Where does it come from?
God.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I'm kidding. God doesn't exist.
I'm entirely too sober for this.
Fine. Here, I looked it up in the dictionary. A right means morally good, justified, or acceptable. True or correct as a fact.
And who determines that?
But that's a different question. You people you can keep rattling off one question after the other, but they're not even real questions.
It's just a thought.
But that's not.
But who cares?
Oh, that's all it is.
Why does that matter?
You do. You keep fucking going on about it.
It's our way of.
I wasn't the one that brought it up.
James, it's our way of
describing. Kinsella obviously wanted some, shit for the show, so he's got it.
Let me be sincere for a second. Just listen for a second. First of all, it's our way of describing in a concise way our normative stance, which you share, I believe. And the reason I pick on you about this is because
what you're here with the belief business.
Let me just explain. I'm not going to argue about this. It's obviously futile. But the reason I pick on you is because you're obviously a very, very, very good libertarian. You just make misstatements about your own view. You actually undercut yourself.
Doesn't make a difference, does it? What difference does it make?
Well, in the long run, we're all stupid, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do with that. I mean,
there are a lot of stupid people in this world.
In the long run, we're all dead.
That's just a thought.
What difference does it make?
That's just a thought.
What difference does it make if you're inconsistent or if you're wrong?
You're entitled to your own opinion, I guess.
Well, but entitled is a rights claim. Did you see what you just did? You can't help it.
You're entitled to it.
Yeah, but that's a rights claim. You're saying I have a right to my own opinion. You just said I have a right to my opinion.
Yeah, and that's my thought.
So you think I do have rights?
Huh? No, I don't think rights exist.
Well, you just said I have a right to my opinion.
Okay, maybe I misspoke.
No, you didn't. You were correct. You actually were correct. See, you actually are trying to take away the good part of yourself, James. Acknowledge your normativity. Acknowledge your rights beliefs. Embrace it. Accept it. It's the best part about you, man. It's what's good in you.
Everything's good in me. Not just that.
So that's a normative claim.
You believe in good. Good. That's good.
James, do you exist or are you a concept?
Oh, here we go. I'm afraid to hear
you tell me.
I'm kidding. I don't want to have this conversation. It's retarded.
This is the retarded show.
I like how James had the V mask on with a professional microphone in front of him. Like, it's one at cross purposes with the other.
Look, most people, I think, agree with the non-aggression principle. They just make exceptions when it comes to authority. Right?
Yeah.
Would you say that's true?
I think people are just not consistent. I think that's true. And they're also they're not economically literate. That's their other big failing.
Well, I don't think that matters.
Kinsella believes in authority. He works in a freaking courthouse. Goes to court. Deals with authority all day long, the guy or the woman in the black dress.
Well, I think authority is one of those terms we were talking about earlier that is subject to some equivocation. I mean,
absolutely.
There's legitimate authority, and then there's the pretense of authority.
There's no legitimate authority.
You don't think that the private property owner has
There's
the
no
legitimate authority over his property?
But that's not authority. I wouldn't call
That
that
is authority.
There's no authority but yourself.
No, authority is do as I say, not as I do. Authority is I make the rules and you follow them, and I'm not subject to my own rules.
I disagree with your definition, and I think that I'm actually closer to the what is the more common definition.
Well, it's my show, so I'm right.
I mean, this is your.
You got the authority.
Yeah, you have the authority here. Well, no, I make a distinction between
what are you
power
talking
and
about
authority.
as the authority?
The power is the ability to do something, and authority is the right to do it. So legitimate authority is actually having the right to use your power. And illegitimate authority is really kind of a misnomer in itself. It's something that's not really authority. It's power without the right to use it.
I guess.
No, I think that's actually pretty good. But you do need to have if you're going to have a dispute about it, you need to have a clear definition. And I think Matt is using the more conventional sense of the word. And Daniel, you didn't give a definition. You just gave a couple of rattled-off examples of, and I think you have something other than the classic example of authority in mind. You're thinking of coercing people, basically, something like that.
Well, look, I looked in the dictionary, and it says the power or right to give orders and enforce obedience.
See, the right to give orders and enforce obedience. Does the state have the right to give orders? No, it doesn't. It has the power to give orders, but not the right.
Okay.
Daniel, I mean, Matt, this is a aside, but you should take a look at this book review I wrote in like 1992 in Reason Papers on international law book, and I talked about this law professor's comments about the intersection of power and authority. I mean, it's kind of a legal positivist approach to things, but it's exactly that kind of view of what authority is, you know, and how the intersection of rights and power and authority all kind of combine together in different flavors. But I mean, you could imagine a natural authority like a wise man in the town that people come to for deciding disputes, or maybe an institution of engineers that has the authority to set standards for weights and measures, or the engineering standards for that discipline. Those are types of authority that make sense, or the parental authority, or whatever. I mean, there's natural hierarchies in society, natural authority.
I think we're getting into the disjointed intersubjectivity of our definitions. That's like yet another sense of the word authority.
But it is a broad concept, I think, right? I mean, authority is a broad concept.
Yeah.
I mean, when leftists disagree with hierarchies and authority, I tend to agree. They don't carefully define the term, partly on purpose, I think. But they want to oppose authority in a broad sense, but especially as applied in the kind of conservative traditional ways they don't personally like or personally predict would be more prevalent in a free society, right?
Well, I guess it's just they don't want people being pushed around by somebody saying, hey, you ever do this or you're going to get smacked around, or, you know, something's going to happen to you.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they care. They just want to be the authority. They just want to do the smacking around.
No, not left. I don't think left libertarians want to do that. Not left libertarians.
Oh, libertarian? No.
Left libertarian, but they do strain their arguments a little bit when they have such strained arguments against natural hierarchies, natural authority structures, employment relationships. As James just said, pushing people around, which is a vague term. I don't even know what that means. And you qualified it by saying smacking them, which is not pushing around. That's actually committing assault and aggression, right?
Well, it's bullying. It's going and saying, you know, you do this, you do as I tell you, otherwise, you know, there's going to be consequences if you don't.
But consequences is one thing. It depends on what the consequences are. You have the right to threaten consequences against people.
Not if they're not doing any harm to you or others.
I totally disagree with
what
that.
the consequences are. If the consequences are if you wear green, I'm not going to be your friend, you have a right to make that threat.
You have the right to say, I'm not going to date you anymore if you don't have sex with me. You have the right to say, you can't work here.
We're talking about that. We're talking about physical violence, stealing, things like that.
That's not just a consequence. That's a particular type of consequence.
And I was talking about bullying.
You did, and that's right. But then you switched.
I was talking about bullying.
You switched to a more general.
Basically, using violence, coercion, threats of violence for, hey, pick up that shovel and start, digging a hole.
You can be a bully and be nonviolent. But
yeah,
right.
And you know what? You can be a bully and be nonviolent, and somebody might take that as you not being nonviolent by saying shit to them in the wrong way or whatever, and they might pick up a gun and blow your fucking brains out, right? Because that's how they think about it. Because
that would violate their rights, wouldn't it?
Well, they might think that their rights are being violated because they feel as though people are belittling them, making them look fucking small in front of other people, whatever.
Which doesn't imply that either party is correct.
It doesn't.
Oh,
it doesn't. You're absolutely right.
Didn't you argue recently that it's actually a type of aggression if you don't give people like welfare or something? What was your? Remember a few months ago you had some argument like that.
Who?
James.
I did.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
You don't
even know the bullshit you spew.
What are you talking about? I had an argument with who about
No, you had an assertion that it's aggression if people don't have a job or they don't get enough money or something like. I forgot exactly what it was. It was
so leftist. Oh my god.
Yeah, it wasn't like.
I don't. You need to be more specific, and because I
thought you'd remember, but I may be confusing with someone else, but.
I think you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kathy.
Well, you commit a act of aggression then, Stefan. You work in the courthouse. You work with judges who were employed by the state.
Why is that an act of aggression?
Right? Well, because he's actually working within the system. The system
but he's not helping him out.
Aggressive.
He's not helping him out.
He's filing patents, law patents. Don't you protect IP and copyright?
What's the question?
Do you protect companies from people stealing their ideas?
No, I don't.
You don't. You're not a patent attorney.
I am.
All right. So do you go after other companies that have taken somebody's ideas?
No.
And you sue them in court? Well, what do you do then?
I refuse to do that.
So what do you do?
So James, you're criticizing him and you don't even know what he does.
Oh, I'm asking him.
So ask him first.
I'm asking him. I think it's still a little bit, wrong that you call yourself a libertarian, yet you work in the stated system. You actually go into a courtroom, a courthouse where there's the guy that's very authoritarian.
I'm not a litigator, right? I don't go into courtrooms. I'm not a litigator.
So you don't work in the courts at all. You don't go to court. You've never been to court.
I have, but I don't go to court anymore. Okay,
so what do you do?
I help people obtain patents and defend them against patent threats from other people.
So if somebody got an idea for a car or something, and then somebody steals that idea and creates the same car, you've basically set the scenario up so that somebody can take those people to court and
you didn't listen to what he said. He protects people against patent trolls, right?
So you don't do any work.
It is true that I do provide people with patents which can be used defensively or aggressively, just like Smith & Wesson selling you a gun. You can use that to rob people, or you can use it to defend yourself. Now,
so you do file paperwork. You do file paperwork with the state, then?
Yeah.
You do buy into that system.
Don't you when you pay your taxes?
I don't pay taxes.
Let's not admit that on a public.
Indirectly, where I have no choice. Yeah. Why? Why shouldn't I admit that?
Because you don't want to get
If
arrested.
enough fucking people stood up and fucking had balls, you know what? The world would be a fucking different place. It won't be fucking people dying in fucking Afghanistan and in Iraq and in different places around the fucking world.
If people ate breakfast regularly, the world would be a different place.
Is that from Arrested Development?
No, this is the closing line of the Adam Sandler's speech in the dumbest, was it Billy Madison, when he gives this thing about the Industrial Revolution, and then he closes it with high school rules. They all praise him.
I don't know. I don't like Adam Sandler. I find him stupid.
That is a funny clip from that movie.
All right.
Mostly what the professor says. He says, "What you just said is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life."
Yeah, that's a funny scene.
We're all dumber for having heard it.
That's a funny scene.
So basically, James is upset with lawyers. I understand that. Let it out, James. Let it all out.
We are your therapist, James.
I still fucking love you like a brother. I still love you like a brother, man. But it's just what it is, isn't it? You've got to provide for your family, and you've got to do what you do. You went to college. You went to law school. You went and got your state license to practice as an attorney. Your state license. Yeah,
James, that doesn't make you a hypocrite.
James, I actually do not. I refuse to assist companies enforcing patents aggressively. I only help them defend themselves against patents.
But you still support the very system by having a license.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, dude, you get accused.
Do you have a driver's license that you registered for the state? You hypocrite.
No, if you get accused of tax evasion tomorrow, would you want to hire a tax lawyer who might be licensed to practice law?
I don't know, and I'll tell you why. Because he can only say what the judge is gonna allow him to say in that courtroom. He's not gonna be able to say anything that I want him to say. He's gonna have to play. He's gonna have to play the game of the man in the fucking black dress or the woman in the black dress in the courtroom. He's gonna have to obey. That's what he's gonna have to do.
You don't think people should use tax attorneys when they're, how about defense attorneys when they're accused of drug offenses? You think they shouldn't hire attorneys to try to minimize the chance of going to prison?
It's up to them. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. That's their.
I know what
whatever they want to do. That's their stick.
Saying, do you think there's something wrong with being a defense attorney and defending people against the state trying to incarcerate them?
Let me speak for James, if I may. If someone is
you may not. You may not.
I don't care. I'm aggressing against you. According to James, if I understand the retardedness of his argument, if a person is accused of a victimless crime, such as possession of narcotics, and you defend him with a state license, you're a hypocrite.
Did I say that?
That's
that is the direct implication.
Did I say it, though?
That's exactly what it sounds like you're saying, James.
I didn't say that.
Is the direct implication of what you said. By the way, the crown that was on you just a second ago until you cleared it away, that was me crowning you the king of the non sequitur.
The king of the who?
So
non sequitur.
Let's change the subject. Let's quit picking on James because James is a good guy, a good libertarian. But you see why?
You're full of fucking shit.
No, I'm not.
You are.
Why are you insulting everyone, James?
I'm totally serious. I'm totally serious.
James?
Of course you are.
James, you're a hypocrite. You know why?
I am a hypocrite. At least I fucking admit it. At least I admit it.
Are you a sinner too, boy? You a sinner?
I'm a sinner.
I noticed you're wearing a shirt, and that shirt was made by someone who paid tax.
Don't go there. He'll take it off. Last time we talked, he was shirtless. Oh, here we go. But I think this does redeem me a little bit with my. So Daniel, you can see why the Jan Helfeld debate was so off the rails.
I loved it. It was hilarious.
So Helfeld is like 100 times worse than James. right?
Right. Yes.
100.
I got furious when he was interviewing me, and he wouldn't shut the fuck up. He was talking over me the entire time.
He reads the same script every time. Number one.
Oh, it's really irritating. Yeah.
Oh, you know what was interesting? I did a debate the other day with Alex Baker. Debate number 2. Matt, were you? No, Jeff hosted that one. It was a Liberty.
I was on the soundboard.
Okay, so that was my debate number 2 with Baker. The first one went off the rails.
Tucker?
Tucker was the moderator. I debated this guy Alex Baker, who's a pro-IP libertarian. Right? It was a civil debate, but
that's about all that can be said.
But he wanted this format, which is similar to the Jan Helfeld format, and I objected ahead of time, not because I didn't want to debate, because I just think it doesn't work well. It's better to have a conversation, I think, in a two-way one where you can hear each other. And the format, that was the bad technical, that Liberty.me thing, the technical features were horrible. It just, you couldn't even have a duplex conversation, do you know what I mean? It wasn't good.
Yeah, Alex had a lag, and Jeff had a lag, and Alex kept freezing for some reason.
Yeah,
I've never had that happen.
I don't know whose fault that was, but
what happened to is Jeffrey Tucker becoming more he's aligning himself with these left anarchists, it seems.
Hold on, I'll bash Jeff in a second, but my point is, after the debate, I'm joking. After the debate, Baker told me, he goes, "You were right. That was a bad debate format," and it wasn't that horrible. It wasn't as bad as the Helfeld one, but it just doesn't work. 10 minutes me, 10 minutes you, 10 minutes me. I interview you, you interview me. It just doesn't work, I think. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Tucker's. Tucker just did a whole 1 or 2 hour exposition on Liberty.me a week ago about Hoppe's book, A Theory of Socialism and Capitalism. I mean, he's not a
I don't like Hoppe at all.
Well, that's fine, but he's not.
You don't like your fucking self.
Fine, but I don't like him as well.
You don't like who?
I don't like Hoppe.
Who's the other guy? Cox said you don't like?
Myself?
Oh, no, but my point is, if you wouldn't like Hoppe, you wouldn't do a whole thing on Hoppe's book if you were a left libertarian. I mean, Tucker's not a left libertarian.
Like, I read Democracy, the Guy That Failed, and I didn't really like it. I thought there's a much better book criticizing democracy, much better, called The Myth of the Rational Voter by Brian Kaplan, which is a great book. You didn't like it?
I don't like Kaplan. Well, listen, well, Hoppe's best book is A Theory of Socialism and Capitalism. Have you read that one?
I didn't. I didn't.
Daniel doesn't like Hoppe because he's not gay enough.
No, well, first of all, I don't like him because I think he's a bit of an elitist snob, and I also think
wait.
So,
why do you think?
So can Stella, so you don't like him either.
I'm not an elitist snob. I grew up in the country. I grew up in the country in Louisiana.
You are.
I grew up.
He's delusional if you don't think you are.
I grew up milking cows and on a farm and.
He's not an elitist. First of all,
jagged sheep with the Wellington boots on. Come here, you little bat. You know why Kinsella wears Wellington boots? So he stuffs the sheep's back legs down them so he can't get away while he's shagging them.
I know Hoppe personally. I don't think he's a snob at all. Why do you say he's an elitist snob? What makes you think that?
Well, first of all, his views on immigration.
You mean there's the stuff he wrote in the Democracy book?
His views on immigration.
Well, you can disagree. Wait, hold on. Most people in the world have views that are worse than that on immigration. You don't think everyone's an elitist snob that doesn't believe in open borders, do you?
I believe in open borders.
Sort of.
But I'm not an elitist snob.
You think your average Joe Sixpack who doesn't want Mexicans coming over the border is an elitist snob?
He's a low-class elitist snob.
Well, I don't know. But you see that's not. I don't think that's a good reason to think Hoppe is an elitist snob. I mean.
Well, first of all, I think because I got the feeling
you can disagree with his immigration views, but you do realize he's an anarchist, right? He wants the state to be abolished and for decentralized.
First of all, I don't understand this. Communities would decide to let in. What does that even mean? Communities? Why does someone get to own an entire community? You own your home. What is this community?
I think he's imagining something. He's imagining something like a restrictive covenant, which does exist in certain neighborhoods. or just private association. I mean, you do realize that even in today's highly integrated society with state-enforced desegregation and anti-discrimination laws, people still segregate by race a lot, right? I mean, here in Houston, there's a Vietnamese community, there's a Thai community, a Korean area, there's black areas, there's white areas, there's Hispanic areas. I mean, you do realize there's segregation.
You do realize that, don't you?
No, I mean, you don't.
I'm not against.
You realize?
I'm not against voluntary segregation.
Well, hold on. I'm against it because I'm a cosmopolitan, elitist snob, but I don't like all these yokels caring about their race, but some of them
impose
do.
your will on people
Because they're stupid.
So, no, I don't believe in forced integration. I have no problem with people who want to segregate.
No, but my point is, even in today's heavily the society where the state makes it almost difficult to segregate by race and other criteria, people still do it. I mean, you have women's business groups. People segregate by gender, by age.
Okay, I'm not against that.
I'm not saying I'm against it or for it. I'm saying it happens already. So you could imagine that happening in different ways in a private society, informally, formally, by custom, by restrictive covenant. I don't know. Until just recently, there were, Yale and Harvard didn't allow women, and until recently, Rice University didn't allow anyone but whites to come to it. There's pro-Jewish.
Pro-Jewish.
I mean, there's all Jewish.
Why are you gonna stop talking about Jews? You know that Daniel's a Jew, don't you?
No, there's Jewish sororities on campuses. There's all kinds of groups even now. I'm just saying, and until recently, there were restrictions, right? Country clubs wouldn't allow Jews or blacks into them.
Fine, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Well, but that's what Hoppa's talking about. He's saying that
maybe I don't understand what he's saying.
People find ways to voluntarily, using private property rights, segregate, like they do now. I don't see what's so controversial about that.
Maybe I don't understand his views, and I'm not being fair. But at least it came across to me like open borders.
Well, there may be other things you could point to which would support your point better, but what you just said doesn't, I think.
All right.
I think originally we were talking about...
Does he support open borders?
Well, he supports abolishing the state.
But does he support open borders?
And he supports decentralization. So
does he support open borders, though?
Well, you have to define what that means.
I mean, you know you're his bum chum.
In today's society, would he say that government should not have armed guards at the border?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I've never heard him say he supports the federal government in the U.S., for example, having armed guards on the border.
Okay.
At most, I've heard him say he does think that. Look, I think the best way to understand his position is he is trying to point out the fact that when you have a mammoth state like we have now, okay, you can't just change one policy to the exclusion of all others and expect there to be no consequences. So all he's pointing out is that he's pointing out that unless you get rid of the state in its entirety, then whatever policy the state has, someone is going to be screwed. And I think that's correct. So what he's pointing out is that if the government maintains current border controls, it's hurting private property owners who want to invite people they can't invite. He admits that, right? And it also has an irrational policy compared to what, say, a private monarch would have. Like it actually favors the wrong kind of people. If you're going to have only a quota of people, you'd want to have certain type of people rather than other type of people. Not letting just the lowest quality people in just because they're going to vote for Democrats or whatever, right? Or on the other hand, if you maintain the existing system and you open the borders entirely right now, given the existing welfare and anti-discrimination laws and everything else, it's going to result in other violations of other people's rights. I think that's true as well, and he calls that forced integration. So he's just pointing out a problem that's been neglected on the other side of the equation. Personally, I think you could never, as a libertarian, support anything the federal government ever does, including maintain the borders. So you can't in good conscience ever support the INS doing anything.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You have to be open borders ultimately.
I think I got in trouble last week when I told someone, and I wasn't really kidding when I said it, where if the only way to stop murder is by having the government do it, murder should be legal.
Well, Cory Doctorow has a point like that about copyright, and he's not actually against copyright entirely, but he recognizes that enforcing copyright is resulting in restrictions on the freedom of the internet, right? And he said, as kind of a utilitarian, right? If it comes down to it, if I have to choose between having Hollywood blockbusters, because the argument is that if you don't have copyright control, then Hollywood can't make enough profit on movies to fund these big blockbusters. So he said, if I really have to choose ultimately between having freedom on the internet and seeing a movie with Bruce Willis shooting bad guys from a cave, I'm sorry, bye-bye, Bruce. And I think he's right. If you really had to choose between a copyright system that enabled blockbuster movies but stifled internet freedom and the opposite, you'd have to give up movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think that's actually the choice we have to make, but it's kind of a good point. It's kind of similar to what you're saying in a sarcastic way about murder, right?
Yeah.
Weren't we talking about whether my boss was a leftist?
Who's your boss?
Jeff Tucker.
Oh, yeah.
He's all of our bosses. We
Hey,
don't know.
Matt, do you live in Carborough?
I do live in Carborough.
I live just down the street from you.
Oh, where do you live?
Do you know where Jordan Lakes is?
Yeah.
I live right there.
Well,
How do you know where he lives, James? Have you met him before? Do you know him?
No, I know where all you live.
What's my exact address?
Really? Do you want me to tell you? You want me to announce it on the air?
Shit. Yeah, what is it? What is my exact address?
I'll tell you later.
No, you don't
Smart
know
man.
it. It's
Smart
all
man.
right. I don't care if the viewers
What do you
know.
say? What do you say, Stefan?
I don't care if the viewers know.
Smart
What's
man.
my address?
Smart man.
No, I'll tell you later.
James, do you ever come to the Triangle Anarchist meetups?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
At least you got a good excuse.
I heard. I actually didn't make it to this one, but a few Crime Think left anarchists came a couple of weeks ago, and they were.
Crime Think? What is that? Like a thought crime?
Crime Think is this like anarchist organization. I guess that's not a oxymoron. Whatever. But they're these idiots who don't believe in any kind of private property, and they came to one of the meetups the other day, and they were really angry that everyone in the meetup, other than them, was a propertarian. So you should come out sometime. We meet in Durham every other week, and then.
Are you trying to associate me with Crime Think?
No, I'm trying to associate you with the people who the Crime Think guys were pissed off at.
Oh.
2 minutes. I'll be right back.
He's got to drop the kids off at the pool.
But, yeah, Daniel, what was it that what was it that my boss said that led you to believe that he was turning left?
It says you're gay and
I
you're fired
usually-
next week. Hold on a minute.
Well, his whole article of humanitarianism versus brutalism.
Where in that article did you see him argue for a non-right libertarian conception of private property?
I don't know. I don't know. It sounded. I make a lot of accusations that aren't true. But,
okay, let me tell you. It's not from Jeff's own mouth, but I've talked to Jeff about that article.
I like him. I had him on my show. I want to have him come again soon. But yeah.
You should do that. But okay, the article was about why you shouldn't be an asshole when you're talking about libertarianism, when you're advocating for libertarianism. Don't be an asshole. That was the message of the humanitarian article.
Did I hear my name called?
Yeah. We're talking about you, not to you.
Oh, why? What? You heard the word asshole? And when he came.
This is a joke. No, that's Chris Cantwell's line, right?
That's
asshole,
anyway,
atheist.
we can talk a little more, but I have to stop the broadcast because it's been like 2 hours already.
Goodbye, everyone.
You don't want to talk about Cantwell before you go off?
No, we can talk.